Good evening, afternoon, night, morning, whenever you find a way to watch or listen to this podcast. It is me, Omar Arjan Borja, the Burger Popper, and I'm here with a friend of the podcast for a while, Brock Vierra of Midnight Sports Today. Just coming at you with more off-season content. I know I sound like a broken record saying that before each one of these podcasts, but we're getting closer to the season as now we have some TV announcements in terms of times and dates and everything. And it's exciting just imagining ourselves like planning our Saturdays for these games that we're going to see on TV. I mean, that's gonna be the crux of our discussion today. I mean, I'm still getting back into the swing of things after taking a hiatus due to I guess busier work schedule, but I'm just gradually getting back into it. But enough of me to start off this podcast. Brock, how's everything going?
That's going good, just like everybody else, trying to make as much college football content as possible in this downtime and looking forward to a great season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first year the 12-year playoff, and of course, today as we're recording this, we would have already seen the reveal, I guess, not really gameplay reveal, but kind of like mini trailer sneak peek of College Football 25, which of course was the buzz all day of the college football world.
Yeah, no, I mean that game is so iconic. I was actually playing the 14 version earlier. I'm just so excited for it to come out and how we can celebrate this great sport with a whole new generation of fans.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't even have an Xbox yet, but I put a down payment for the game and my best friend, he said, you know what? Put it on the registry, put it on the wedding registry. We will he's like, I'll get you that. Get yourself a friend like Dylan Casey, my boy, since high school. But that's neither here nor there. I mean, the game comes out July 19th, but now we're talking about some of these TV announcements in the Mountain West, as you can tell by the Colorado State jersey that I pulled out of my closet before this, the Aggie orange, and the NBC hat for Fresno State on Big Ten Saturday night. But the Mountain West will probably have the most network TV exposure it has. Well, not even probably. Will have the most network TV exposure it has ever had, and that comes due to, of course, CBS games, which I think CBS has 3 games per year, which those will be determined soon, probably in the next 2 weeks on May 30th when the rest of the TV selections are announced. But also, too, due to Washington State and Oregon State, the Pac-2, their scheduling agreement with the Mountain West, and the CW swooped in as they should have and agreed to a TV deal for most of Oregon State and Washington State's home games. They get 11 games from each school, not from each school, I should say, 11 games combined for the schools. And it's a pretty packed slate for the Mountain West. I mean, almost every week you'll have a Mountain West team on network TV, whether it be on CBS or on the CW, and even a Friday night game that is a standalone network TV game just based off the time slot. So Brock, I want to know your initial thoughts on this TV deal. I mean, it's temporary, it seems, but with the tides of conference realignment, who knows if Oregon State and Washington State will soon become Mountain West members. But I want to know your thoughts on this TV deal.
I think it's fantastic. I think whenever you have an opportunity to showcase five sports in a bigger light or to a much bigger audience, it's a blessing. I mean, there's so many great football players that play at the non-power four now level that people just don't get a chance to watch because of certain restrictions or issues. So, like I said, anytime you have an opportunity to put these kids on TV, it's always great, and they're going to play even harder than they possibly could, just because they know that so many people are going to be watching.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I can think of some signature performances that happened on the CBS broadcast in terms from the Mountain West. I mean, last year you have the Wyoming game, Wyoming Texas Tech, right?
Hmm.
I mean, just Andrew Peasley coming up. I mean, coming up huge in the Texas Tech game on prime time and overtime, and then. I mean, before that, you have 2022 with Brad Roberts absolutely running wild on a pre-Deion Sanders Colorado team on CBS. Now that gets multiplied. Now you have after dark games on Saturdays. You have the after dark Friday night game, September 20th, with San Jose State, Washington State, which is just a huge opportunity for San Jose State to shine. I think it's great, honestly, but I think it leads to the further question too, where do you think the Mountain West is beginning to surpass the American, not just in exposure, but I guess in terms of perception for the college football world?
I mean, quite frankly, I thought the Mountain West passed the American last year. I mean, when you suffer as many losses as you did in terms of Cincinnati, Houston, UCF, and also well, no, they were independent times, so not BYU, but still, um, those three teams, it's really hard to recover because they're teams that are from such major markets. I mean, Cincinnati is one of the biggest cities in Ohio, has a tremendous football history. Of course, UCF right in the heart of Florida, so that's a big market. And then for Houston, that's a major market in Texas. There's really no other way to replace it. And the fact that the Mountain West is now essentially added to former Power Five schools in Oregon State and Washington State, teams that will probably be in the College Football Playoff within the next 3 to 4 seasons, I would say. I mean, I just think it's a benefit for all of them. And this also provides opportunity for the Mountain West to be the team that clinches that automatic Group 5 bid for the playoff.
Yeah, I mean about that automatic bid for the playoff for the Mountain West. I think the key is these signature games, these high profile games, which they'll get a lot of on the CW with Washington State and Oregon State having the deal. And I think it's just interesting too because if you look last year with SMU, SMU had a really good year. I mean, no one really. I'll just say this: I don't think anyone really stood out in the group of five last year. I mean, yes, Liberty went 13-0, but they had a very weak schedule, of course. Like, not gonna blame them. Just going from being an independent to joining a conference, and a lot of Power Five schools are on their schedule for, I guess, the coming years. They saw that as opportunity to cut loose those contracts and just get out of what honestly is a difficult game, just playing Liberty in general. But they had a weak schedule, right? Didn't really stand out. Can't really name a signature win other than the two wins against New Mexico State, but those are very low profile. SMU didn't really have a signature win. They went 0-2 against the Power Five. Against they lost to a shaky TCU squad and they lost to Oklahoma by 17. So now with the Mountain West and the CW deal, and that's not even mentioning the games on CBS too that CBS is going to pick up against Power Five teams. There's plenty of opportunities for signature wins against say Washington State, against say Oregon State, which are winnable games for the Mountain West. They absolutely are winnable games, especially with how much Oregon State and Washington State have been depleted by the transfer portal.
Yes.
So I think in terms of the group of five, I think these style points kind of matter more. And I know style points is a term that hasn't really been used as much since the BCS era, but I think the style points and the showcase games are what matter. I think they matter more for group of five teams than they do for the Power Four.
Mm. Yeah, and I can definitely see that because style points unfortunately does exist again because of the 12-team playoff. Before it wouldn't matter because it was just wins and losses that would get you. And now we're debating on whether a conference in the SEC could have a fourth team or third team be in the playoff, as they pretty much have two automatic guaranteed bids. So when it comes to a situation like the group of five, there could be a situation in which Washington State, 'cause I believe they're still qualified as a Power Five team, could get in. Plus, if let's say Washington State went 11-1, but that one loss was to an undefeated Mountain West team, having that would be able to get both of them into the playoff. And then also, once again, having that TV exposure when it comes to the voters who have already displayed a major bias against the West Coast, for them to have more access to these games, I think is, or at least for the public to put pressure on them, is very crucial for them going forward.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And you mentioned the late start times, which of course some of these Washington State games are late start times, but a lot of these games for Washington State, Oregon State, they are, early enough kickoffs for for Eastern riders especially to tune into. I think another interesting point too is as we compare the American in terms of their exposure, uh, in the past couple of years, really, they have a contract with ABC. The American has a contract with ABC to show, I think it's 3 games per year minimum, and ABC has not taken more games than the minimum the past couple of years. You look at 2022 when Tulane won the conference. You have for in terms of ABC games, you had Notre Dame Navy, which of course is a bi-yearly game that ABC is definitely going to broadcast because it's Notre Dame Navy, and it's another chance. It's a chance for ABC to broadcast Notre Dame. And then you had Cincinnati Tulane in the AAC title game. Those were your 3 ABC games. Cincinnati Tulane, of course, on Black Friday, where the American has occupied a spot comfortably for the past few years. Same thing this past year, where there really weren't many ABC games for the conference. You had Alabama, South Florida, but of course, South Florida was not the main attraction of that game. Of course, Alabama was. Then you had the Black Friday game. You have UTSA Tulane, which has sort of become the Black Friday game sort of become a formality for the
Mhm.
conference. And then you have the AAC title game. And then, of course, you have other sources of network TV attention. You have the Army Navy game, right? But Army Navy is not a playoff resume game, which you can feel however you feel about that. It's not, I think it's
It's
great.
stupid. I think it's stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad it stays on the same date. I'm glad it stays on the same date as an Army fan, but it's like at what point I think it's gonna be competing against bowl games. Like as we wait for the bowl schedule to release, I think the seven bowl slate that originally occupied the third weekend of December, you're gonna put those bowl games on the second week of December and have non-conference champions play in those games. I just think that's the way it's gonna be, which kind of takes away Army Navy's standalone status, but we'll see. We'll see for sure. But yeah, so like that game's no longer a spotlight game. And then last year you had Notre Dame Navy week 0 on NBC, and then Navy absolutely got trounced out in Dublin.
Yeah.
So I definitely agree that the tides are turning in terms of perception and these network TV appearances. You look on the flip side with the Mountain West with theirs, you had Wyoming, Texas Tech, like I mentioned earlier, right? I mean, that one was an instant classic. San Diego State lost theirs to UCLA, but I mean that was predicted, really. Brady Hoke's final year, and then you had Air Force versus Navy. Air Force played Navy in that one, and that game, I mean, Air Force's defense was dominant, to say the least, and that of course is an American Mountain West game. So I do think the tides are turning. I do agree with you, and of course now in this age where I think I guess it's kind of weird how time's a flat circle. The same way that I guess games were harder to access on cable, now it's flipped to streaming services, right? Where the American has their deal with ESPN. They have games on ESPN Plus. Of course, there's another amount I guess there's a good amount of games on ESPN, but it's just come to the point too where cable and streaming is just less attractive, and the more games on network TV just matter. Network TV just matters again. I feel like as much as it did, when we were growing up.
Yeah, and I think one of the big factors we're not really talking about is that in the recent years, the transfer portal, yeah, we've seen big programs come in and take players from group of five teams, especially on the West Coast. But in the same sense, now we're seeing with Fresno State and Boise State, those teams are getting some really high profile high school recruits that didn't really work out at those bigger programs, and now they're playing the Mountain West, and that's a great benefit for both because we still get to watch these players play on TV, perhaps rejuvenate their career while also being able to see the profile of these programs build. I think when in terms of high school recruiting, this network deal is really going to flip things in favor of the Mountain West 5, 10 years down the line. Down the line.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's potential too because it's not looking so good for the Pac 2 to recoup everything unless they honestly build from the American, if we're being honest. But I mean, say Oregon State and Washington State do join the Mountain West and they do either a reverse merger or just regular merger and just fall under the Mountain West name. I mean, the CW has already had a 2 year trial with essentially a Mountain West TV deal. So I see this deal being long term because the CW needs more inventory, and they're seeing the tides too of the sports broadcasting landscape where cable is less attractive, where RSNs are falling, and where people are kind of becoming fed up with streaming with the greed of, I guess, conferences and pro sports leagues with streaming. So I think the CW will be stupid to not extend this deal past 2024 and 2026 and and I mean just pursue the Mountain West after that. But yeah, I mean I totally agree with your point too on just these players getting more exposure and becoming more I guess more like household names.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess my final point to it is that it's clear that it's a survival of the fittest right now in conference realignment. And the Mountain West has done an insanely good job in maintaining their foundational structure. However, the problem is that within the next 5 to 7 years, teams like the conferences, the ACC and Big 12 will start to get plucked off towards the Big 10 and the SEC. So thus they're going to go to places in the Mountain West and try to secure other teams. I think they're going to have a much better ability in holding on to their teams with network deals like this compared to maybe the American, who I think will get plucked a lot more easily than the Mountain West.
Yeah, I mean, and I think yeah, I agree too. Like because I think the Mountain West can expand into Texas, honestly. UTSA makes a
Yeah,
lot of sense. I mean, we all remember when they were in the WAC for that one year, right? I mean, that the 2012 WAC year. But I think it's interesting too how if you look at the mid 2010s, seeing the American get and I was thinking too, I had a bit of nostalgia thinking about the American getting these three or so ABC games, how like in 2015 or 2014, like this was a huge deal to see a group of five conference have home games and not be cannon fodder, excuse me, on ABC. I was thinking randomly too about the 2015 East Carolina Virginia Tech game that was an ABC. It was a reverse mirror. I know that word hasn't been said in a few words. It was a reverse mirror broadcast where some regions got the game on ABC, other regions got on ESPN2, where that was a big deal for the American. And then now we have new players jumping into the sports broadcasting landscape, namely the CW, providing more opportunities for group of five conferences to be exposed on network TV. It's just great. It's honestly a great change of pace and something that I would not have predicted, honestly. If you would have asked me like in 2018 or 2019 if this was going to happen, I wouldn't have believed you, honestly. But still speaking of network TV, with some of these TV announcements, we got the first Big Ten Saturday night game of the year announced. We have Fresno State facing the defending national champions in Michigan in their first game of the post Harbaugh era. This game, so I want to know your thoughts, Brock. I mean, I know this game will probably have a large audience. I mean, most eyes of the country will be diverted to Notre Dame versus Texas A&M. Obviously, it's a Fighting Irish, right? And obviously, first year under Mike Elko for Texas A&M. But I think this game provides a nice alternative because Michigan is just as oh, okay. No one's gonna equate Notre Dame, but they are, I guess, I would say a second or third place in terms of biggest brand in college football. Michigan is. Yeah, Fresno State playing under the lights against Michigan, defending champions. How big is this for the Mountain West to get this Big Ten Saturday night spot?
it's absolutely huge. I mean, one, just the pure potential upset. I know it's very unlikely, but like Appalachian State is a perfect example. They parlayed one victory into jumping into a brand new conference or a brand new division. So I think it's huge. I think UNLV went on national TV last year against Michigan and put in a really impressive display. And people started to open their eyes towards the Rebels, and they kind of parlayed that into a really successful year. And then again, just having the ability to showcase some of your fighter players against the defending national champions, why wouldn't you? I think it's a perfect thing happening for them. And yeah, no, I have no other thoughts besides there's no harm that can come from this, and that's great.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think it's interesting too because I mean, yes, you said upset alert, but also too the Heisman campaign for Mikey Keene. Mikey Keene just is a household name in the group of five. Been for a while, it seems like, because I mean, I remember when he took over for an injured Dylan Gabriel, right? 2021, 2022, and had solid numbers. But now he really came into his own as in his first season as a full-time starter and everything had a solid year. Hopefully he can stay healthy. He was banged up late in the season last year, but we can see a healthy Mikey Keene test himself against a great Big Ten defense, arguably like the best defense in the country, for being honest. And that could really, I mean, if he has a strong showing, that could really get him some Heisman votes. I mean, I'm not going to say he's going to end up in New York, but I mean, who knows? Who knows if he can, and I guess if he can land himself in the top 10, we can all dream, right?
Yeah, I mean it's highly unlikely, but like, is it really that outrageous to say that he could be a Heisman candidate, considering his coaching pedigree, background, and all that other good stuff?
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I agree. And shoot, I mean, I'm not fresh on, I'm pretty sure Jeff Tedford did step down again, right?
I thought so, but I think he's back. Let me double let me check. Yeah, if someone wants to check, like I heard he was stepping down, but then at last check, I also saw that he was still like involved in some way. So I'm not entirely sure.
Oh, I guess he is still the head coach. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah,
he is coaching.
I think he just changed his mind, honestly.
Yeah, so I thought he was, but yeah, I mean, yeah, like you mentioned the coaching pedigree, Jeff Tedford, great quarterback coach. Of course, Aaron Rodgers comes to mind and everything. But yeah, like I'm excited to see Mike Keenan's second year in Tedford's system. And of course, we see Tedford and I mean Jay Kaner coming into his own as a starter in Jeff Tedford's first year back as coach. So I mean, yeah, I'm just really excited to see Keen play and test himself against a great defense. Because if you look at Fresno State's Power Five wins last year, I mean, they had two Power Five wins, but it was Power Five in name only. I mean, Purdue, close game at Ross A that they beat the Boilermakers. And then, of course, they had the 29-0 blowout to Arizona State, who was the worst team in the Pac-12, for being honest. So,
Yeah. Don't but
so
don't downplay it. Like damn. Like, even though
yeah,
even though Sacramento State also beat, you know,
yeah.
like don't no, I got nothing. I'll just making dumb jokes. Like, yeah, that's the reality of the situation. Is just hopefully they can, but if they don't, I really hope that they can put in a good display so that they represent the conference with pride and show why this deal is so beneficial for all.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to the CBS selections. I haven't looked at exactly which, I guess, which teams are hosting, which Mountain West teams are hosting Power Five teams. I guess I can say I think this year is a rare year where Wyoming is not hosting a Power Five team. I don't know why these Power Five teams want to keep going to Wyoming. Those mountains must be really beautiful. Because I always thought there was nothing in Wyoming, but I guess I'm wrong. For these Power Five teams to keep wanting to go to visit Wyoming.
Wyoming in the fall, I haven't been there before. I've seen it's beautiful, but it also sounds like a very challenging trip. Like what does the schedule look like? What does the hotels accommodations look like? How does the air travel look like? The bus ride? Like I don't know. It just doesn't seem like a really beneficial thing for so many teams to be scheduling.
Yeah, I can't imagine that's an easy trip to make. I mean, especially commercially, especially with fans too. If like fans want to travel to Wyoming, I mean, you better hope that you're traveling from a travel hub than traveling to Wyoming. That's nothing to say against the great people from the state of Wyoming because when I went to the Arizona Bowl, we I was dressed at least in Ohio Bobcats gear, but I sat the 2022 Arizona Bowl. That is, I sat in the Wyoming section because that was the shaded section of Arizona Stadium, and they were some great people. I always remember fresh in my mind, right when Wyoming scored I guess the go ahead score late in the fourth quarter. One of the Wyoming fans turned around, shook my hand, shook my mom's hand, and as if they pitied us. And I'm like, there's still a minute and a half left in this game, and I mean a field goal ties it. And sure enough, Ohio won. But I was Ohio. I mean, I'm usually a neutral party for a lot of games, but I was an Ohio fan because I had the '90s Bear paw or not Bear Bobcat paw shirt because love me a throwback shirt. But yeah, just a little story time. Wyoming, the people of Wyoming are great and they know how to party. I will say that.
That's a great story.
But yeah, I mean, I'm excited for the Mountain West this year. Hopefully all the Service Academy games are on CBS this year because Army and Air Force was put on CBS Sports Network, which is a crying shame that Army's first ranked win since 1972 was not broadcast on network TV. But I digress. Brock, I'm gonna let you in this time. Unless you have anything final to add, I'm gonna let you plug your various platforms and just anything else that you want to advertise.
Yeah, for all my college football content, check me out on teamnbsmedia.com. I just wrote about the UNLV Rebels in the last one. I'm also covering the WNBA Las Vegas Aces. And then if you want to check out more of my NFL work, check me out on Rams Wire, USA Today. I write for them, and that's where you can catch all my Rams coverage. Currently doing a piece on Jackie Slater, so that should be coming out soon. So give it a read.
Yeah, no, that's great. Jackie Slater, definitely a forgotten hero, forgotten legend in the NFL. So I'm looking forward to that one. I mean, anytime I get to learn about the heroes of the past that we may forget, especially on the line. Just great. I'm looking forward to it now.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm curious though. I mean, I know you're a Chargers fan. I mean, I guess how'd you land the Rams gig? You just like swallow your pride in?
Well, you know what they say. Cream, Cash was everything around me. They were the first ones to offer me a job, but I was able to get in contact with my boss man, Cameron De Silva, via my good friend at Trojans Wire, Donovan James. Donovan kind of gave me the inside look. I hit up Cameron. I applied for a job. I unfortunately didn't get that job, but I got another job. I've been with them. I've been working with them ever since, and it's been a lot of fun. I've learned a lot more about the Rams in that time, and I've had an opportunity to speak with so many great contributors to that organization from many fronts, and it's been a true blessing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, shoot, the Rams, if you think about it, one of the league's most historic franchises. Honestly, they were America's team before the Cowboys were, being in LA with all the glamour. I think it was like Bob Waterfield dated Jane Russell for all of my old Hollywood film buffs. I didn't think I'd be mentioning Jane Russell in this podcast, but put that on the hardware pod bingo card. So yeah, no, I mean, just great that you're doing content for the Rams. And I mean, especially the history with Jackie Slater and first of many legendary profiles to come, which I mean, I can't mention the Rams without mentioning Roman Gabriel. Rest in peace, Roman Gabriel belongs in the Hall of Fame.
Yes, agreed.
Enshrine him today. Stop enshrining these legends after they die. Talking about Ken Riley. It's a shame that
Yep.
he was inducted when he was alive.
Don
But
Coryell.
yep, Don Coryell, Eric Coryell too. Yeah, so Hall of Fame needs to fix itself quick, you know.
Yeah.
They need to make us voters.
Exactly. And just want to add, I actually did a piece on Roman Gabriel last week, so you guys can check that one out on Rams Wire as well.
I will be checking that one out right now before I go to bed. Because I'm a huge Roman Gabriel fan. I just love that era of quarterbacking when we started to be smarter with like, I guess NFL offenses and everything. Um, yeah,
Yeah, no, no, definitely one of the pioneers of the position, and also just one of the true revolutionaries in terms of breaking barriers in many aspects. So, art, rest in peace, Roman Gabriel, and yeah, definitely check it out. Let me know what you think, bro.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, she also sent it to my dad too, because my dad's also a huge Roman Gabriel fan. Him being a full blood Pacific Islander, from Guam and everything. So that's Roman Gabriel's definitely a hero to him, or was a hero. But yeah, no, I mean, just definitely gave me definitely a lot of reading material before I go to bed here. But thanks again, Brock, for being flexible, coming on a short notice to talk about some TV time, some broadcast contracts, and the Mountain West. And everyone, thanks for joining. Whenever you see this, whenever you listen to this, night, morning, I mean, evening, whenever. It's been great. And until next time, everyone, peace, love, and soul from the Burger Popper.